Good evening and welcome to the Jaymie Icke Show. Now tonight we're going to be discussing democracy. You know, that dangling carrot that the vast majority of the world population aspire to live in. But has anyone actually ever got there? Well, I'd argue that's a very clear no. Some may be closer than others and may have got close at various points. But in my opinion, no country has ever reached the point where their society is truly fair and equal for all, is free of widespread corruption and dishonesty, or any of the other behaviour traits that you would want in a leadership team. The argument has always been that we're the ones that elect the politicians, so therefore we can make the changes to our relative countries through our voting if we wished. However, anyone that's studied politics for more than 60 seconds will know that the system is completely rigged to favour those who already have the money, power, and influence. My saying would go, politicians and leaders are selected, not elected. And does anyone really disagree with that? Grassroots movements don't seem to make a difference to who is in elected power, unless they don't, to be honest. They may affect policy occasionally if the scale is so big that they can't be ignored anymore. Poll tax was probably the first one that did that, and possibly this as well. Take the COVID protests through 2021 here in the UK. Now over 1 million people were at one protest alone in London. Now I would suggest that this was a massive factor in why England came out of lockdowns and other COVID-related restrictions much earlier than many other countries around the world. The government simply couldn't ignore that response. However, for a fair while afterwards, Boris Johnson still remained Prime Minister. Till he was caught kissing his secretary, Matt Hancock, still remained Health Secretary. And the man who was in charge of the crazy spending and borrowing that caused the economic catastrophe we're now in is now the Prime Minister. So did they really get justice? No. So although the response to the policies actually potentially did create a policy change, those that were pushing those draconian measures still remained, and in many cases remain, in charge. So simply protesting and so on alone is not going to bring about the change that we want. We have to simply disengage with the system. I said this last week. All the things that are designed to enslave us in their various ways, we have to disengage with as much as we can. Last week, I spoke a lot about exercise and about eating the right things. That's a great start. Clearly, they want us to be fat and unfit. It's not an accident that fashion brands around the world and even medical institutions are now promoting such an unhealthy and gluttonous lifestyle and physique. I mean, take this image you're looking at right now. There's literally nothing healthy about this image at all. Being overweight and unfit increases your risk of so many health problems, including the world's deadliest virus, of course. You know, the one with a 99+% survival rate, good old COVID. The statistics of people who apparently died of that were under 60. The ratio of them that were obese and overweight, well, I'll let you read into that yourself. Now, another thing to add, besides treating your body like a temple, is treating your mind like one. Only let in what feels right to you. Only surround yourself with supportive people. Cut out toxic people, of which there's so many, that just only add stress to your life. The circle I have, for example, is very small and I'd have it no other way. And I know that many of you will have been through a really tough time in recent years, and possibly still are, where your families, your friends have seen events of recent years very differently. And this has caused huge divides in families, in friendship groups, and even ended marriages and relationships. Now, the last thing you should do, in my opinion, in reaction to this, is censor yourself to please anyone. Be who you want to be, and be true to yourself. Life will have a very funny and interesting way of attracting the right people to you when you do that. Just try it and see where it gets you. That's just another example, and a very simple, in my opinion, way which we can engage from the system. Now, back to democracy. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. The West, now particularly countries like the US and UK, have often acted like the world's police when it comes to this subject. In their arrogance, they seem to think they've got it so right at home that they can transport this society across the rest of the world. Just ask the people of Afghanistan, Libya and Syria what they think of Western democracy. Now, there are issues much worse in some countries than in others. Now, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that the UK is the worst society in the world and life here is as bad as it is in countries like North Korea, China and Saudi Arabia, etc. But that doesn't mean that I can't sit here and say that Western society isn't fundamentally broken as well and does nothing for the general population of the West than simply treat them as pieces of meat and enslave them. In my opinion, we need a complete reset of systems the world over, and power needs to come back to the people. It is our power after all. Those people that are in these positions of apparent power are only there because we've allowed it to happen. The day that stops, the day the systems and institutions will fall, and we can stop fighting amongst each other. Look at this video, for example. This is outside a nightclub in Tenerife, and it's a fight between England and Wales fans. Look at them, tough men. I bet they still all wore a mask in their local Tesco though, didn't they, right through the pandemic. They'll fight for some things, but not for others. And that is a problem we have through the entire world, in my opinion. Soon as we stop doing that, soon as we start uniting and realising that the system really screws us all, a change can be made very simply and very quickly. The choice is ours, and that's how it's always been and always will be.